Here. Not here, but please. I'm hungry. Yeah. We don't have anything to eat. Okay, I'm gonna deal with that right after this meeting. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Yasmeen. Hi, Monica.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Roshii.
everyone.
Ching
Hi.
Ching.
Hi.
Let everyone in.
Hi, Luby.
Hey, hello, everyone.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Thank you for organizing this. Great
Well,
idea.
I think we're just gonna keep it very informal.
Right.
I think we're all, I don't know about you, I literally just ran into the house, hightailed it home from work, had to pick up my kids. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
We're all just like, managing too many things. But the reason I thought this would be kind of a fun, just informal session is because I don't know how many TESOL conventions you've all been to, but I'm such a newbie when it comes to TESOL conventions. I've actually never even gone to an in-person TESOL convention because I'm always working. I've never been able to take off from teaching really to go. Has anyone else here never been to a Charlotte's shaking her head? You've never been? Yasmeen's never been. I went to last year's virtually. I went to this year's virtually. Both last year and this year, I would have taken off and gone in person. Now that I'm more involved in leadership with New York State TESOL, but of course didn't get the opportunity. So can we just maybe introduce ourselves just very briefly and let us know if you have a long history of attending TESOL conventions, what your role is, if you have, some of us have leadership roles with NICE TESOL, but let us know also if you have any kind of, leadership roles or connections with TESOL International. So Lesley, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay, so I have a long history. I've gone to many, and I've done various bits and bobs, mostly actually to do with IATEFL and TESOL rather than TESOL. Yep, and I enjoy it.
Thank you. Ching Ching.
Hi, my name is Ching Li. I'm the president-elect of NICE TESOL. Nice to meet everyone. I'm kind of newbie. My first year at TESOL was 2 years ago at Atlanta. And last year I didn't attend because it was virtual. So this year it's a different experience, but I enjoy each time, whether it's virtual or in person. It's such a vibrant, vital event. You get to meet so many people all around the world. Such a diversity in the field.
Thank you, Ching Ching. Yasmeen.
Yeah, hello, everybody. My name is Yasmeen, and I'm the VP Conference Elect with NICE TESOL. And I have never been, as I said, I raised my hand, I have never been to an in-person international TESOL conference. However, part of that is because I was abroad for quite a few, maybe like 3 years, or intermittently, really more like 5 years. But and so the first big conference I really went to was IATEFL BSIG in Malta, because I was teaching business English. And so that was my first kind of foray into attending big conferences. And I really, really loved it. And so yeah, I mean, last year I was planning to attend TESOL live in person, but obviously we see how that went. And then I didn't attend virtually, but I did this time. So I'm excited to share some of the things I learned this time.
Thank you, Yasmeen. And Roshi's here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roshii. I'm the VP Outreach for NICE TESOL. I'm so happy to be here. I have been attending the big TESOL since 2015, and I've actually presented there once. And I love it. I love the connections. I love the energy. I will have to say virtual is not half as fun, you know.
Yeah.
We all know it's just more of the same. It's very hard to process. But yeah, definitely a big fan. So I'm very happy.
Thank you, Roshii. Luby.
Hello, everyone. I'm Luby Alatriste. I am editor-in-chief of Nice Tesol Journal, and also have been working on the SIG, Higher Ed SIG for years now. And yeah, I think I'm not a newbie, although I feel a newbie every time I go.
Yeah.
I always feel like so many new people, so many new things, but I've been going since forever. And it's definitely fun to see people. And I have to say, my most favorite ever event is our Nice Tesol happy hour. Like I cherish that moment. Normally we have like food and drinks and everybody's invited and it's such fun. And we talk about our journal and our initiatives. So, you know, we had a bit of it this year, but actually that's always so awesome. So always glad to
Thank
be
you,
there.
Luby. I think, is there anyone else here who attended or has attended the Tesol International Convention? I don't think so. No one else is chiming in. I have to say, I'm so jealous when I see like Lesley's pictures on Facebook from like blasts from the past with Tesol conventions and Roshii, and like, I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I want to be there in person so badly. I love the New York State Tesol conferences. I'm like a conference person. I love them. I just have so much fun. I love meeting people. I love all the stuff that is really hard to replicate online. So it's tricky for me because I really love that energy. And I did find, well, we'll get into the roundtables in a little bit. So let's first talk about the platform. So what did you all think of the Tesol convention platform? So for those of you who didn't attend, it was called Showcase. It was different than last year. It had a lot of elements, a lot of things to click on. I found it sometimes a little bit confusing in terms of like where, like all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, there are pre-recorded sessions that I didn't even see kind of buried in one part of the website. So and then there were some technical, as can be expected when you have 9,000 participants in a convention. So, no fault to, of course, Tesol leadership, because they're not, in charge of the tech. It's the platform that they use. But there were some technical issues with people having trouble connecting and accessing, especially the first plenary, the first couple of, major sessions. So thoughts on the platform? And feel free to just unmute and jump right in.
I kind of thought initially the platform didn't work for me, but actually it was easy to navigate. My own presentation with some of my other colleagues from across the states actually was on demand. I had no idea it was going to call on demand. So I didn't even know where to find my own presentation. It was totally weird. Like I just spent hours looking for it. And so that was a little bit of a kind of that strange name. I think people might have thought they had to pay for it because on demand is something that's usually for hire or pay. So I thought that was a misnomer linguistically, like how could they even do that? But otherwise, I thought it was pretty easy to navigate. I mean, the Q&A sessions were also not in advance, sort of people were not announced as to whether they're going to have Q&A live or not. So I didn't know for my own session there was going to be so even the participants were confused. So that was maybe just sort of, the prep stage was hard. But apart from that, once you got into the swing of things, I think it was easy. It was fine later, connecting to people, and I thought it was okay.
Does anyone know if there was, because I don't remember seeing like an instructional video on really how to navigate, because I felt the same as Monica, that it was very overwhelming when I went into it. Just it was all new and there were lots of moving parts.
Right.
And so, I feel like if there were a video or something like, okay, this is how you, navigate this platform that, sent to the participants maybe a few days before, so we could kind of get used to what would be happening, that would have been better. I figured it out eventually. I mean, after wanting to go on there, wanting to get the most out of it. But yeah, initially it was like, whoa, what is this? So I think they did make up for some of the problems by sending the participants the links to the featured or the keynote speakers, and letting us know they would be available for a while after. I think that was a good way to make up for that, because initially the participants were told that the live sessions weren't going to be recorded with them. So I think that was their makeup.
I think the platform is intuitive enough to navigate. The thing is they wait for a long time to email us the link. So everyone was wondering, how are we going to get on the platform? That kind of creates some kind of confusion. But once you was able to log in, it kind of everything fall into the place. It's easy to navigate. The platform, I think it's a good platform, even though it has a lot of technical glitch. But in terms of navigation, my experience is I think it's very easy.
And it's such a catch-22, like what Ching just said, like it's a good platform, except for the technical like glitches. It's like, well, that's tricky right there, because you need to have it all. Like you need to have all the working components, the ease of navigation, but it needs to be technically sound, in order to really be successful. So it's very tricky, especially with that number of participants.
Right.
Lesley, or
that's
go ahead.
More about, I think that's more about the capacity.
Yeah.
Consider it's an international convention. They have so many attendees, so many sessions. I think it's no excuse for the technical company not to foresee this situation. But I don't think that's the issue with the platform. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Did anyone else want to say anything about the platform?
Well, I'll agree with Yasmeen. I would have loved to see an orientation video beforehand. And they did tell us, actually. I logged in early. And when I went to that site, YouTube site, it was just 2 people talking and just their still images. There was no navigation. There was nothing for a new person. How to navigate the site. It was kind of a useless piece of information, according to me. So I'll be really honest about that. Either don't say you have an orientation. If you do have it, just do it right, is my opinion on that. But the other part is what I was surprised by, again, maybe it's just me. I did not realize that all the sessions were recorded except for live Q&A. And even some of the live Q&A, there was a lag. It's almost like, our questions were not being received or answered immediately or whatever. So I don't know, technologically, it was a bit challenging, yeah. But I'm sure they'll do a greater job the next year round. So.
Yeah, I think every organization's looking to improve on, what we try one year and then go forward and add on to it, make it even bigger and better. One of my favorite components was something that I didn't even see for the first day or so. And it was the roundtables. Did anyone attend the roundtables? So what they were was basically, some of them were set, scheduled, but others you could create your own. So you could go into this spot on the platform and just say, hey, I'm going to make a roundtable at 4:00 to talk about, working with newcomer English language learners at the primary level. You could just make your own kind of spin in a very informal way. And if anyone popped in, you could have that gathering. I just wish that got top billing initially, because I didn't even know what it was. I totally ignored it for the majority of the conference. And then when I found it, I'm like, this is actually what I like. It was just more the chatting, the informal. So I just was popping into random ones. And sometimes I'd be the only one in there, no one else was there. But I was just looking for those kind of those random connections that you would have at a normal conference, like waiting in line to get your food and you start talking to the person next to you. Oh, where are you from?
Yeah.
What do you do? You know, oh, what sessions are you going to? So I really like that. Did anyone else enjoy the roundtables?
We had one, didn't we?
Yes.
We created one for Friday with the MA students, and I thought it was a great feature. But like you, Monica, it should have been front and center, because the one thing that we knew was going to be missing about the virtual was the networking, and it was a fine opportunity. So that was a surprise that wasn't clear, because I think lots of people would have used it.
Yes, I agree with you, Lesley. If more people knew, we luckily were on WhatsApping each other. Otherwise,
yeah, we could see what it was, because we didn't. I mean, I think that was there was like a flat orientation, but the orientation was like it was sort of professional. It wasn't like a user-friendly one. It was sort of their professional thing.
Right. It wasn't interactive.
No.
It should have been like a tutorial, you know, like a tutorial for newbies. I do something.
And also for Tesol, you know, the actual conference itself, rather than this kind of pay another thing.
Right. So.
Well,
thank you for sharing.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Yasmeen.
I was just going to say, speaking of networking, I did think it was kind of cool that people could send you like connection requests, like LinkedIn. You know, because I would be watching something and then I'd see this something pop up like, oh, so-and-so has requested to connect with you. And I'm like, oh, so I thought that was kind of, you know, that was good. I mean, that was an interesting aspect of it, putting up your profile picture, putting information about yourself. So they did try to kind of add in that networking value in a different way, other than these roundtables, which I didn't know about either.
Except, you know what, Yasmeen, then I felt like those friendship requests or whatever they were, the networking, I feel like then they fell flat. Like I got a bunch, but then I was like, now what? Like I wasn't sure, you know, and I got a lot from the vendors, which of course, you know, that they're going to try to reach out to you. But like, that's where I was like, okay, now what? Like I want, you know, so anyway, I'm always about the connection. So that's like how I always approach any virtual thing I go to, like how I'm going to make those connections.
There was a chat board as well, so people who had questions. So I joined, right? You know, but I chatted with a lot of people, you know.
Did you?
Yeah, and how do you know? And then they sent me email requests, and I said, "Oh shoot, my profile is public and not private." And somebody else complained that she's from Atlanta, Georgia, that she tried to change it to private, but couldn't. It was too late. So we got a lot of random requests. I actually haven't followed up on a lot of them, basically, because Monica, I wasn't prepared, because for me this year, Lesley, I don't know if you agree, it was the format was a bit more clunky, and I think it's a lot of people, 9,000 people on one platform. And the other thing I would say is that I'm not a tech person, but my view is that, just my opinion, is there's multi-functionalities going on at the same time. You're having Q&A lives going on, concurrent sessions going on, networking, everything's going on at the same time in different time zones. So when you try to achieve something as ambitious as that, you got to keep in mind that the bandwidth is going to fall somewhere. You know, for me, that, you know, don't have to do so much. You don't really have to do all the bells and whistles kind of thing, is my thing. Keep it simple. I want to go chat with Charlotte, I should be able to do that. If I want to go to Ching's, you know, record it. I went to Laura's, for example. I saw that. So yeah.
What's your opinion of, and this is for everyone, even if you didn't attend Tesol International, what's your opinion about pre-recorded sessions? Are they a turnoff, or do you think, like, do you find them useful? I find myself when things are live, like I'm in the moment, like I feel like, okay, I'm there, it's live, it's happening. When it's pre-recorded, I'm like, I'll watch it and then I'll be like, I'll come back to this later. I don't feel that I'm as engaged, but maybe that's like just, you know, me and my brain dealing with 10 different things at once. How do you feel, everyone here? Do you like the pre-recorded, or is that kind of, do you try to find the live sessions, or you don't, or you go either way, you don't care?
Charlotte is raising her hand.
Yes, Charlotte.
Hi there. So I did not attend the Tesol International, but since COVID, I have been attending many virtual conferences for all different reasons. And last month I attended a genealogy conference by Roots Tech. Actually, one of your workshop presenters in the beginning of February was attending that as well. And so it was a 3-day conference filled with so many workshops that when I first saw the itinerary, it overwhelmed me and I kind of wanted to just shut down. But then I put it to bed for that night. I woke up the next morning and I said, okay, let me take a look at what I'm interested in, what can be a priority for me. And so I kind of sketched an outline of which programs I'd like to see. And the night before the conference began, I actually spent a good 3 hours and I went through all of the exhibitors' presentations. So all of the book vendors, all of everything to do with technology, just anything to do with selling things. I went through all that. And that way, if I had any questions, then I can email one of the exhibitors the next day. And then my mind was clear about that. I didn't have to worry about entering raffles or anything. I was done with it, I downloaded all the free materials as possible. So that also helped me because then I was able to use the free materials to look at, to compare them against the actual presentations that were being given. And then when I got to the presentations, lo and behold, besides the keynote speakers, which were all the keynote speakers were live, but I wasn't able to attend them. It was at awkward hours since it was international. So I started clicking on the workshops that I wanted and they were all recorded. And at first I was like, oh, I don't like this. I was so used to our conference, our workshops where we can see each other and talk and ask questions. So at first I was a little standoffish, like, oh, I don't want to do this. But then you know what? By the third day, when I still had like 50 workshops that I wanted to attend, it worked out because then I just simply clicked and saved all of the workshop YouTube videos. And that way I could go back to it.
You're really hardcore, Charlotte, about your workshops. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. When I'm in something, I'm in it. And then because then I get that anxious feeling of, okay, well, 3 days. All right, no problem, right? 3 days. No, by the end of the third day, my heart was pounding, saying, I have so many more that I wanted to see.
Wow, you have that fear. You have that fear of missing out. That's your diagnosis. Yeah, you don't like that. You don't like that feeling. Yeah.
Because when I know something's good, something's good.
Yeah.
I felt the same way during the when we saw in November when we had a Tesol virtual conference, and that was awesome. But I missed a few things, and I'm like, oh man. So live is great, but recorded is okay too because we can go back to it later.
I just want to say quickly that with the recorded, I find it better if there is a live Q&A after. So at least there's some kind of interaction with the people who recorded the presentation. That's it.
But Yasmeen, that was exactly the case. They had a live Q&A after the recording. Everything was recorded. The funny thing is the tab said live sessions. When you click on it, you go to the sessions, you pick one. They're all pre-recorded, but the tab says live sessions. Live sessions for only the workshops and the roundtables, of course, but nothing else. So I actually wrote to them. I wrote to Tesol inquiring about this, and they said, well, that's how it is structured. So, but I like, to Monica's point, I like recorded for the same reason as Charlotte said, I can go back to it. I mean, for me, that was good because I was in the middle of something and then I could go back to it. I could, rewind it. I could watch it an hour later. I could go to another session. When you're really in TESOL, I mean, it's nothing like the human effect and connection. There's no way around that. That's amazing experience being live and connected with people, the networking, as Monica said. But then you're stuck in this room with people, you can't really get out. In a virtual session, you can multiply watch different things. How much we process is a different matter, but at least you're in and out of many different sessions. And that's, for me, that was really worthwhile. I think these are the most sessions I've ever attended since 2015.
Yeah, I think
I was
that's
trying to keep in mind what Suzanne was saying in her talk about be intentional. I was like, oh shoot, am I being intentional here? And I took out your cheat sheet, Suzanne, and I was like, I need to fill this in, what is my key takeaway? And I'll be honest with you, some of the sessions were fantastic and some were really not so fantastic. So yeah, that was my takeaway, not so fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. Actually, I have to apologize. I have another lecture at 5 o'clock because the time was changed, so I can't really change this. And I need to take a breather in between. But I think takeaways definitely, I mean, as every conference, sessions kind of vary. So that's sort of, on the technical side, I don't know if much could be done because the US part is sort of relying on these structures. I did attend some European sessions this year and last year, and actually they were excellent because they were all in real time. So, it's, and they were actually in Denmark and Sweden, so sort of Northern Europe, and they were fantastic. So, but they're smaller. So, I don't really know. But I just want to say that actually 3 things kind of struck me this time that my takeaways were that really the conference had a lot of social justice themes and overarching sort of issues. And as a sort of a field and as, people and as TESOL. And then there was also sort of how we bring social justice and current issues into our classrooms. What I didn't see, I think, enough of is sort of TESOL turning the lens on itself really, really hard and saying, are we really doing enough in terms of diversity, in terms of, our graduate programs and recruitment, who are really our TESOL instructors? And I was disappointed because, I was thinking that it's going to be a lot more harder questions because first we were the field of white men, then we became the field of white women, then we came sort of, white women, Asian women. But the fact is, we really do not recruit enough African-American instructors and teachers. And that was very, very slightly addressed. And I thought, well, we need to do better. So I wish I had heard more about that. And finally, all of the digital teaching left me sort of wanting to understand better what happens with language teaching, specifically like more studies. They were all talking about, this is how you do it on remote and the pandemic issues. But the truth is that's not much different from what we've had before, like MOOCs and things. I mean, this has been going on, particularly in the UK. Obviously Lesley knows it, others know. Open University has been around for now, 70 years? This is not a new thing, right? So I wanted to see studies. I wanted to hear studies. Okay, which method in language teaching for this specific age group or this specific, which one works better? What is a study? Is this an experimental? So I wanted to hear more of that. What I saw, and I went to almost, a ton of those, it's all sort of the same difficulties with online, with digital, with this and that. So, those are my 3 big takeaways, although I did see some nice sessions in reading, writing, and literacy. And the one that I kind of loved the most was about argumentation, because this has been the topic forever in our field. But they were saying we shouldn't really teach it as, pro and con. We should really teach it argumentation for discovery and for learning and understanding each other. I thought that's really what we need a lot more in our society. Maybe not just looking at the bipolarity, but looking at what can I learn from the other points of view? Why is this such a complex issue? Because argument is complex by nature. So those are my sort of 3 things that I thought I'd share. I'm sorry that I have to rush off and that I have to kind of present it quickly. But I want to thank you, Monica, for organizing this, because it's a great idea to share with our membership and those who haven't been able to go and attend. And I also want to just thank Nice Diesel for, its support and everything that it's been doing, and our own advocacy people who are awesome, and they've done some great work, and they're still doing some great work. So thank you. And, I hope to see you soon, and you can always send me an email to either luby@nicedieseljournal.org, or, you can look up our Nice Diesel page. So
Thank you so much for joining us, Luby. Thank you.
thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And by the way, I wanted to give Suzanne credit. Suzanne is here, who did a fantastic workshop like a few days before the conference, and really was encouraging us, as Roshii referenced, to she was giving us tips on how to really be, what was the word you used? Intentional. Thank you. To be intentional, because I think sometimes we do, like, whether it's virtual or in person, we're kind of wandering around, going into random things. Sometimes the fit is not right. Like sometimes, we're like Charlotte, and we like circle everything. Like we want to try to go to everything, but really that's impossible unless you're Charlotte. Like it's so hard to go to everything. And then we also get that, I don't know if I get that overwhelmed feeling, like, okay, now I'm just overloaded, and I end up really taking nothing away.
Mhm.
And I just go back to my teaching world, and it's kind of like compartmentalized. Even though I attend a fantastic conference, it's sometimes hard to find the things that are applicable. So I definitely tried, Suzanne, to be more intentional in what I attended. The good part is, if you attend the TESOL convention, as everyone said, we still have access to recordings. So I'm trying to still go back to it. And when I have time, take peeks at things. And I'm also not forcing myself to watch entire presentations if after a few minutes I feel like this really doesn't apply to my world, and moving on and trying to make better use of my time. So thank you, Suzanne.
That's great to hear. And thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it more than you know. And we heard social justice themes came up. I wasn't able to be there. So what were some of the other big themes?
I think the biggest theme, one of the biggest themes for me was the recognition of the trauma of 2020 and acknowledging just how hard it had been for teachers. And I think TESOL always does a good job of acknowledging the hard work of teachers, which is maybe one reason just to go there, because we often don't get validation in our own jobs, but we do get validation at these conferences from one another and from the leadership there. And I went to a talk, and it was called Coping with the Traumas of 2020. And it was by Christina Yanuaria. I've probably pronounced that really wrong. It was like at 7 a.m. And that was the other thing about TESOL, that, it started at like 6 a.m. because they were trying to get so many time differences. But this was just amazing. It's probably one of my favorite talks, because she started off by looking at Paulo Freire and talking about education is never neutral, and then really moved all the way through to all of the issues that are being compounded by 2020. And my takeaways were two things. One, that we cannot run on broken legs. That kind of struck me so hard for teachers, because I felt that we were all doing such a good job, but we needed to do self-care as well. And I think it's still continuing, and may to next year as well. And then to extend grace, because what I enjoy is always, like you said, networking with people, but really having that empathy with people and understanding them and them understanding me. And what I found was that other teachers were going through the same issues that I was, especially this semester. I've told Roshii about this. I mean, students just sort of a graduate level, they're really struggling. They're struggling with, even though we've got the vaccine, it almost feels worse this semester than it did in the summer and it did in the fall. And I was just happy to hear from other teachers, yeah, I'm having the same problems too. And there were other teachers saying, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Trying to understand that. And she went through quite a few Twitter, tweets where people had said, oh, teachers are working so hard. And then finished off with this kind of trauma iceberg. I mean, I've got it here. I don't know if you want to see it, or I can just share it. but the trauma iceberg of, you know, kind of what's on the top and then how much is going on underneath, and that we need to understand that not only about us, but our students, and then back to us. If you
Do you want to share your screen, Lesley? I made you co-host.
Yeah,
you want to
I can. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be great. Okay. I know this is going to be informal, but so if you can see that to begin with, can you see that? So coping with traumas, this is what I put on Facebook actually, because that's the other thing I try and do when I'm in a talk. I put it on Facebook just so that my students can see, but as you said, education is never neutral. And then she went on to how we responded and all the compounding events of 2020, which I think often we didn't acknowledge as teachers. We kind of just always do the same thing. We look after our students and then our family, and then we are kind of somewhere at the back. And that's kind of her message was, you know, don't run on broken legs. And then here, not sure most people understand the number of high quality and hardworking teachers who are truly on the verge of breakdowns due to being overworked and overwhelmed this school year. And that was, she just pulled that up to sort of acknowledge what we do. And then this is the iceberg. If you can see it, it's a bit small, but sort of how we are, the fatigue, the headaches, all of this is kind of there. But then there's all of these other things that we need to think about, and that we as teachers tend to be, and I won't show it anymore, but we tend to be vicarious, you know, that we see our students' trauma, but actually it's our own as well. And, you know, I think a lot of that last year particularly was maybe not realizing and working, and then, you know, what we need to do. And she sort of ended up with the kind of the themes that we've talked about before. And I know Ching has mentioned this, you know, just teacher self-care. What do you do? And how do you acknowledge that what you're going through is kind of a trauma as well? Because we do have to show a brave face and we do have to rally for our students, but we also need to get together at conferences and vent, you know, and that was my takeaway.
Thank you for saying that, Lesley. And I'll say that this year, more than any other year, I hear so often from people, teachers who are second guessing even their career choice, you know, who are teachers who've been in the trenches for 20 years saying, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore, you know, and that's really, and I'll be honest, I feel it too. I mean, it really, this year has really sucked out a lot of the joy that I think a lot of us always feel, a lot of the passion. So it's been really hard. So it is great to hear just that we're not alone in this, you know, and that it's a weird feeling because you're right. Like we said, okay, the vaccine's going, things should be getting better. And yet a lot of us kind of still feel in this slump.
Yeah.
And it feels, it's unsettling because you're like, when am I going to get back to quote unquote normal? When am I going to feel that, you know, that passion and that enthusiasm? And I want to introduce Jasmine Cohen's here. Jasmine, welcome. Jasmine's our VP conference this year. I'm so glad you're here, Jasmine.
Yes, I made it. Like I had, you know, there was work stuff that needed to be tended to. And so, but at 5:02, like at 5 o'clock, I said, gotta go. Like I have a conference thing. It's just like, so, but you know, I mean, I think one of the reasons that you and I are so focused trying to bring a live conference to people is I think it is part of taking care of ourselves, to have grown-ups who have the same mindset. You know, it takes a certain mindset to work with the population that we work with, and a certain love for the profession and a respect that you often don't get, and just to have an adult conversation that's not centered around your own children, college applications, or boyfriends or girlfriends. Like, you know, I'm not interested right now. But I need that human contact. And Monica knows that I was the most resistant of all to do a live conference. And as I moved to Florida and I started to reflect because my son moved out. He didn't want to come with me, and he's 18. So he decided to stay and finish his senior year. And it's a choice that he made on purpose. He wanted to be face to face with his friends. So he's commuting from New York to Westchester every single day. He gets up at 6 and he's at school by 8. It's, you know, and that distance that all of a sudden opened up between us became a space for me to take care of myself and think about what it is that I miss in my adult life. Well, I miss in my adult life other adults whom I can relate to, who don't ask me as the first question, where do you live? In order to size up if I'm worthy of a further conversation. Okay, or what do you do? Like, you know, oh, I'm your teacher trained. So and I'm like, you know, really, like, is that how you feel? Like the people who take care and educate your children, that's your reaction. So the idea of conferences as a place where you take care of yourself is really the part that I'm saying is looking forward, because right now everybody is talking about algorithmic equations and how these algorithms can cure everything. And I am you know, I'm very deep into computer stuff like that. But I am saying an algorithm doesn't have any consciousness, but we do as teachers. And because we are conscious, we can tend to the souls of our students. And that's what the spark of humanity is. And that's where we are not computers. I talk too much.
No, I love it. I love it, Yasmeen. And you know what? Let's be honest. You want to have an in-person conference so you can dance a little bit. We're having our party, our dance party. If it's
only you and me, if we are the only two people in that ballroom and we are dancing, we're going to do that.
We're doing it.
And I will tell you something else that I thought about, and that is the element of joy.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what, administrators, I wish more administrators would fund conferences for practitioners, realizing that it's professional development, and they don't fund it even though it is professional development. A lot of times they give you a hard time, but not only is it good professional development, but it is looking out for the well-being, the emotional and mental well-being of your teachers who need that. They need that freedom to go to collaborate, to mingle, to get away from the classroom a little bit, because it really does. It's refreshing, and it gives you like that new energy and that excitement about returning to the classroom. So I wish more districts would support teachers going to conferences and fund them for teachers. Teachers should not be having to foot the bill for conferences.
I think like we all have gone to conferences, and I liken it a little bit to a library. So you sit and you figure out the books that you want, right? That's what we do before we go to a conference. And then we go to the conference, and all of a sudden it's like being amidst the book stacks, and there are books right next to it or above or below that you had not thought about. But now that you're seeing it, you're going to take it into your hand and you're going to open it up, and all of a sudden that's really interesting. But now I'm not going to go to that thing because like I saw that, like I want to go over there and explore there. And I think that is part of of a live conference that's very different from a virtual space.
Yeah, definitely. Who else would like to share some like quick takeaways or key moments or things that you left really feeling like made a difference in your teaching, or something you could apply? Anyone else want to share something? Yasmeen? Where'd you go?
Oops, I'm sorry. Yes, I would like to share a couple of things. So one thing is, Suzanne asked about you asked something about socialness. Okay. And the keynote speaker, I don't know if anyone else saw this keynote, Glenn Singleton. Did anyone else?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, he was really amazing. I mean, he kind of had a mixed background going, okay, but the core of his presentation was really about advertising, and just basically changing the imagery of advertising so that it was more diverse. And he talked about, he really went in, he showed quite a few videos of actual kind of candid interviews and statements that people were making, because there was this type of experiment that an advertising agency decided to take on with honest conversations. And conversations around race and around diversity. And so, it really just felt very authentic, and it was very striking. Some of the things that people were talking about, so within the agency. So the idea was that if they could have those conversations within the agency, then they could get everybody to kind of come together, work together, feel more comfortable creating together. And then he actually showed one of the results of this type of coming together. And it was this fabulous, I think it was Nike, this ad that he showed, yeah, Roshii, yeah. So that he showed that was, it just really dynamic, very diverse, very dynamic, and about like goals and dreams and and things like that. And yeah, so Glenn Singleton, yeah, exactly. And so
I just
if
put his
anyone,
name in the chat if anyone wants to look him up and read more about him.
Yeah, that was, so he was really great. And then there were, I kind of had a few little slides, but I don't.
Your co-host, you can share. Go ahead and share if you want to. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
go right ahead.
I went to like a couple of things that I thought were interesting, but I'll be a little bit brief because I'll be a little brief. Okay. So a snapshot of the lessons that I learned that I thought were really great. Okay. So one of them was listening, the often neglected, but always, I heard someone say, did someone else?
Oh yeah, I love this one. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Marnie Reed, and some important points that she, brought up about when students are listening, do they understand how the words actually sound when they're connected to other words in continuous speech? So, I think that she brought up a lot of things that we already know as teachers. We kind of know, but because of maybe the way the curriculums might be set up, we don't necessarily implement. And she was really kind of talking about this idea that a lot of the time we are testing listening comprehension instead of focusing on the process of listening and teaching students the process of listening. And then she went into quite a bit about that in terms of how we could go about doing that. She highlighted ideas like there's a difference between understanding the speaker's words and understanding their intended message. So here I've italicized intended message because that was another thing that she brought up. A lot of times students are reading and they kind of skip over this italicized wording. They don't realize there's emphasis behind that, and that can completely change the meaning of whatever the speaker's message is. She also said students have a tendency to misfunction words and focus on content words. And then it could completely, again, change the meaning of a sentence. So she gave quite a few really interesting examples, like tell her I'll meet her at the bank becomes tell her I'll meet her at the bank, because the students have kind of skipped this her, right? So it's kind of, she talked about really being aware of those things, teaching connected speech, teaching the deletion of certain sounds, and also contracted speech, because that can trip students up if they're listening to something and thinking that, things are going really quickly. Of course, like the three endings of the S or the ED, she gave a great example. He looked it up. So she was doing this type of dictation exercise, and she found that a lot of the students ended up writing, he looked up, instead of he looked it up, because they were, processing this ED sound as looked-ed instead of looked. And so she was really making very clear points about that. Teaching the impact of intonation. Again, she gave a really good example of sometimes on our syllabus, we'll say, oh yeah, if you turn in your assignment late, you'll be docked some points. But a student will still say, hey, can I turn in my assignment late? And then you as the teacher might say, well, you can. And then there's a negative intonation there. You can, but there's going to be some type of, issue if you do it. But, if you're not paying attention to that and you just hear, oh, you can, like can, this is the positive statement, but really it's actually negative because of the intonation. So, and then there's a couple other good examples that she gave. Okay, like how would you finish this type of sentence? She's not a teacher, okay, versus she's not a teacher. So yeah, I mean, I thought that was really great. And then some detecting the signal, locating the signal, and interpreting the signal. And she talked about these action steps in order to solve kind of some of these issues that students have. So I took some screenshots. That's what I like to do. Charlotte talked about her methods. I like to take screenshots of things that I see that are really that really strike me. This is another one. I just have one more after this. Okay, so this was another one that I thought was really awesome. Empowering English learners with digital learning resources. And if anybody is interested in this, I could put the link in the chat to this because she gave the link to everybody. So and provided us with this. And really, if you click on to anything here, it takes you to a lot of really cool handouts that she gave. Okay, so like if I click on to this, I don't know if this will quickly load or not. We'll see. No, it didn't do exactly. Let's see. The digital tools for learning strategies, different types of digital tools. Okay, there were PDFs. So now it's coming up a PDF with just this incredible array of clickable resources here. So you can literally click on these and see what these are. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and there were like 3 of these. They're digital learning resources, tools for learning strategies, and then let me go back to tools for learning strategies, tools for family engagement, tools for interaction. So she gave a matrix breaking down the different types of digital tools and what they're used for. So yes, I will definitely put this.
Yeah, if you can share this.
Sure. And so you guys can just click all over this thing, basically, and just, check out all of the awesome resources. So I thought that was really great. And then just there was one more that I wanted to share. Mixed, augmented, and virtual reality for English language teaching and learning. So I'm really fascinated by a lot of digital stuff. So if we're talking about like having intention, usually I definitely look for some digital stuff, and I'm teaching listening and conversation and podcasting and stuff like that. So that's why I was curious about the listening. Okay, so yeah, so mixed reality using elements of tech in real world situations. Augmented, for me, I didn't really realize the difference between any of these really. So I thought that this was great that this was broken down. Okay, digital objects overlaying the real world like Pokemon. Okay, location or image-based scanning. And the whole new world is created with virtual reality. So, and they really stress this idea of being there without going there, which is really important nowadays, right? So I'm not going to go through all of this, but yeah, there were some specific issues that using VR can actually cater to. Okay, so reasons why we should use it. And then the final presenter gave these really cool ways of kind of having this augmented reality experience without technology. She talked about tangerine meditation, and she talked about using QR codes for art walks and all of these kind of Google Lens, which I had never heard of. So there were a lot of really cool things that were talked about there. Okay, I think that I'm stopping there. There's some resources she provided here as well. So I'll stop this and I'll put that link in there for you guys. And if anyone wants a copy of what I was just showing you, okay, I could send that to you as well. Okay.
Send it. That's nice. Thank you. Amazing.
Yasmeen, what was the tangerine meditation?
Okay, so that was where there was some type of it was like an English literature type of class, and there was some type of text that had to do with, like, it was food was kind of the topic, right? So there was some kind of text about like tangerines and tangerines growing and something or other. And so what she did was get a bunch of tangerines basically, and have the students hold the tangerines and like have them do kind of a mindfulness thing where they're kind of, just envisioning like, the tangerine crop or, this type of thing, and kind of to help them kind of think of creative ideas of how to get into this story about these tangerines. And so it was kind of like a mindfulness thing. And one of the strong points that she mentioned was, we always have augmented reality when we ask students to use their imagination or to visualize something. In that case, it's kind of a type of augmented reality. So yes, I will go ahead and start to share some of that stuff with you guys. Okay.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to share any takeaways, sessions that stood out to them, ideas?
I love the keynote, opening keynote on March
Clint.
Yeah, Clint Smith, right? And I was actually quite surprised because it was like took me into a totally different world that I hadn't, maybe my very small world, but it kind of opened up many, many different thought patterns and ways of addressing the social justice and racism issue that we're facing right now, and we will continue to face. And I like the idea that he was, so I have can I share one slide that I made of him?
Yes, I just made you co-host.
Oh, I can share. Okay, great.
Yeah, I thought he was fabulous too. He was incorporating, if you didn't get to see, he was incorporating poetry into his presentation. It was very cool.
Right. So basically, where am I now? I have so many things open on my app. Sorry, guys. Oops. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, can move this. Well, basically, he was, this is him. I don't know if you can see him, but
yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So it was a transformative classroom, basically. And I think these are the key takeaways. I mean, can you see this? I think I probably have to go into present mode.
Can you slide the whole screen? Oh, there it is. There, you're perfect now.
Yeah, so it's like, my takeaway was that we educators are in a unique position to help our students see the world in a different way, in a new way. He talked a lot about his growing up and coming of age, and how much of life was hidden from him as a Black man growing up. And he was so knowledgeable in terms of history, which I wasn't aware of myself, neither my kids who went to school here, because I grew up in England and then, other places in the world. But my children grew up here and they were like upset with the textbooks, but they never, they said, Mom, it's all bull crap. So he really talked about, what we don't see. If we don't see something, we can't really do anything about it. And it's important as educators to present all sides of American history. And people might say that's indoctrinating students with our ideologies and experiences and perceptions, but that's not true. There will be parents who feel that way. He says, but it's really how you scaffold everything in a classroom, how you get students to see inequality as something that has been constructed, not that it just happened and that's the history and that's the end of it, but it's been constructed over a long, long time since America came into existence, and therefore can be deconstructed and reconstructed for a better world. And what better way than students becoming empowered and knowledgeable about different worlds? And so he said, don't hide the facts, just share them openly in the classroom. Have the students discuss, but scaffold the content, you know? And he talked about that, his experiences, and this is the book that he's coming out with, which I pre-ordered, How the Word is Passed, which already has great reviews. And I also got his book of poetry, which he published, amazing. And I think that he really talked, he was very authentic, and he was amazingly on point in his live Q&A sessions. He was able to really frame, he never came across as a person of, you know, one side or one opinion. He came across as a human being that totally embraced all the ideologies, but felt really like it's our responsibility as educators to make sure the next generation is aware that this is a much bigger world than we imagined and that we're taught in schools. And unless we have that big shift, I mean, we're doing a disservice in a way. So I was blown away by it. It's very empowering. There's so much more stuff, I mean, notes that I've taken, but I have, yeah, I really wish we could see the recording, right? Yasmeen, I don't think they recorded it, right?
Actually, yes, all of the keynotes are available. The one that I talked about, he's no longer available because there were certain dates, but the rest of them, like this one that you're talking about now, I think that's available until it's Clint Smith that you were talking about, right? He's available until the 7th at 7 p.m.
Thank
April
you.
7th at 7 p.m. So yeah.
Yes, he was wonderful. Very, very empowering. Yeah, I think all educators need to really, great takeaway.
Yeah, there definitely, thank you, Roshii. There definitely was, you know, as we've said, there are more advocacy sessions, more social justice sessions than I have seen in the past.
Exactly.
So I think TESOL was making a conscious effort to make sure that strand was included. And we, for the first time, added that strand to our Nice TESOL conference for the fall, a special advocacy strand, because some sessions just, you know, when you submit a proposal and you're asked to choose like elementary ed or higher ed, whatever, sometimes it is something that's just, you know, advocacy, it's broad. Will his presentation be the Clint Smith presentation? No, we're not allowed to share it ourselves because it belongs to TESOL International. However, I would Google his name and see what you can find that's available. And as I said, as Roshii said, you can get the books as well. Just a little plug. I know we're short on time. A little plug for an advocacy session that I'm a little biased, but Justin Gerald, who goes by JPB Gerald, in his writing, is our VP advocacy for Nice TESOL. He presented at TESOL International, but he's gaining a lot of attention and being cited more often with some of his writing, which is about really decentering whiteness in English language programs, and it's very timely, and it's the kind of the conversation we need to be more conversation, a little uncomfortable, but really are powerful. And he talks about something that I really struck a nerve with me about how as English language, as ESL or TESOL professionals, we sometimes think that we're immune to having our own biases, almost like we're not biased, we're ESL teachers, we're not like that, and almost giving ourselves a pass and saying, oh, we're kind of above that. And he really calls out, you know, ESL teachers and the field in general to be more reflective. Yes, Justin Gerald. And when he publishes, he publishes under JPB Gerald. And he's writing some really interesting things. So yeah, he's our Vice President of Advocacy for New York State TESOL right now. And I'm really excited about some of the work he's been doing. So just a little plug for him. So yeah. I know it's running late. It's 5:33. Is anyone else, any last minute, any other comments anyone wants to make? Anything that, just a little plug, Jasmine, quickly plug our conference. Go for it. You're up.
Okay, so we have something very interesting in the works. We are doing for our virtual day, hopefully, vignettes of countries and classrooms and Tesol. We have Moscow and we have Yemen, and we are working on Taiwan. Okay.
It's so I'm Jasmine's not going to even sell it enough. I'm going to sell it even more. It is so exciting to actually, like, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, like to actually get an inside look into a classroom in Yemen. Like, how are they teaching language in a country that I know nothing about? I'm so excited, Jasmine.
It is
I had to
very
jump in there.
exciting, and I
It's
want you
so
all.
exciting.
I said to Professor Guhbrani, I mean, my father is from Syria, so I have connections. Like, I was able to, like, I worked with him before, and then the war came. So none of the teachers, all of the teachers and all of the professors have not been paid for 5 years. Look at this, 5 years. And they show up to work every single day teaching the kids.
It's unbelievable.
That is dedication.
They need a union, by the way, but yeah.
It's pointless, that there's so much grift and graft. So now, so that's one thing. Then we have a administrator workshop that's done by my chair, Dr. De Jesus, who worked upstate. So she's going to be working with administrators. And then we are working on our live conference. And if anyone knows of anyone in New York or the vicinity within driving that they think would be a great draw for our conference, because it's going to be a little bit iffy trying to fly people in. I don't know if people are ready to do that yet. But if you know of someone and you would like to be helpful, we would love to talk to someone who has like a big keynote draw. All right? We would love to hear from that. And if, and then we want to do some really fun things to take off some of that pressure of us.
It's going to be, I'm really excited. Like we've done in the past, the school visits, the local school visits, but here, obviously we're not doing that this year because of, COVID, but we're getting the inside glimpse into English language classrooms or language classrooms across the world. So that's really exciting. It is November 4th, 5th, and 6th. We are planning for the 4th to be all virtual. And the 5th and 6th, we are planning to be at the Sonesta Hotel in White Plains. So save those dates. Please save the dates. We are so excited, fingers and toes all crossed, that everyone will be at that point safely ready to join us. Of course, we'll be following all restrictions, all CDC recommendations, and that may even include, getting like a rapid test or whatever before you attend, whatever we have to do to ensure that everyone is safe. But please save the dates. We're so excited. If you have not submitted a proposal, we extended the deadline to April 15th, so it's not too late. Just go to nystesol.org. Even if you've never presented before. Who here has never presented at a conference before? I'm going to put you on the spot. Who here has never presented? Anyone? Well, if you've all presented, I see a hand. Get your proposal in. It can be something as simple as a teaching tip. It can be like, this is what I do to get my kids engaged at the beginning of every lesson. It can be something very basic that's user-friendly. Sometimes there's the stereotype that presentations at conferences have to be very academic and very, research-based. Your research can be what's happening in your classroom. So please share with us, get involved. We're so excited. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thank you so much. Please stay in touch. If you have any ideas, like Jasmine said, if you want to get involved in helping us plan the conference, if you want to help promote the conference, just email us and get involved. We'd love to have you. And everyone, have a great night. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you're teaching, don't forget your students. Your students could be in groups presenting at our conference. They could be working towards their professional development. Student candidates, teacher candidates, doesn't matter. Did they do an infographic? Do they have a poster, a great word wall? Let them come, let them be part of this and be excited to be in a group of like-minded peers. Peace to all.
Thank you, Jasmine. Have
Thank
a
you
great
so
night,
much, everyone.
everybody.
Bye bye. Have a good evening,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.